in this format so that both sides, right and left, can come together and support those who have suffered a loss. As Einstein once said, peace cannot be achieved through force, but only through understanding. Although we may differ in opinion about the war, I think that we can agree on one thing. The men and women are dying almost every day. And as we face the end of the occupation, we should consider what that means for the 38,000 soldiers still deployed in Iraq. The war was declared over March 20th of 2003, and since then we've lost 713 soldiers. As recently as April, the U.S. suffered its greatest number of losses at 143 U.S. soldiers. The rate is not decreasing, and whether we change its name, it does not change the casualties. As we release balloons, please recognize that there are still 117 additional U.S. soldiers who have died since the war officially began, and 117 who have died from other nations, such as Spain and Italy. Lastly, let's not forget the 9,000 to 11,000 Iraqi civilians who also lost their lives since the war on terror began. When I began to research my event, I called several organizations. One such organization was Amnesty International. Max White asked me, "Who are you and what do you represent?" And I said, "I'm only one person." Well, as I look at all of you here today, he said, never refer to yourself as one person. As I look at you all here today, I understand that those words, one person, really can make a difference. As I see you here, your support of the troops and the cause, I really do truly understand the root of that message.
Under a foreign sky, fate awaits me. There but for God go I. Do not forsake me. I am a boy full of promise, full of freedom. And now the joy is dead and done. I am gone.
We expect our soldiers to succeed. On the other hand, we expect them to perform better than their training. We expect them to do impossible things even when tired, exhausted, sick, wounded, surrounded, outnumbered, lonely, and unsupplied. We expect them to do everything right all the time, to live on even as they die. On the other hand, we expect them to be hardened, impervious, and tough, even as we demand that they be compassionate, unscathed, and kind. And we expect them to come home healthy, unscathed, and well. Most do come home, of course, in one way or another,
Before the western sea, my home was in the valley. There with my family, I took to manhood early. I was the one my brother called, my mother looked to me, her fine, strong son. And now the joy is dead and done. I am gone.
It seems to me that if you were going to adopt a religious mantra for international policy, it would not be peace through strength, it would be strength through peace. And that will play out practically in our ability to marshal resources to bring along our next generation. And it will happen in the big picture because it will, our ability to have influence in the country and have influence in the world and have influence even over the small internet communities that we build will be on our moral authority.
Under a weeping willow tree, you planted roses. There in my memory, where my eternal ghost is, I was a boy full of promise, full of freedom. And now the joy is dead and done. I am gone, and now the joy is dead and done. I am gone.
George Bush's favorite philosopher He said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." Welcome, brothers and sisters. I'm the president of Veterans for Peace, Chapter 72, which was just reformed last year. And I'd like to thank all of the veterans who are out there, and I'd like you to thank them for their service. Now, we're all here to reflect and remember all those who have died in Iraq. And we must also never forget those who have been wounded, both physically and mentally, during this carnage. For they will be the living reminder of this black period in our history. And how we treat them will say more about us as a people than all the rhetoric and all the speeches that you're yet to hear. I would like to thank the organizers of Rise of Remembrance, for they've found a way to allow us to demonstrate our commitment to remember. They took the lead. That's something we all need to think of doing. To lead in the efforts to bring an end to the needless slaughter of our troops and the thousands of innocent civilians who are caught up in this conflagration that's not of their making. Well, how are you going to lead? Well, looking at this crowd, I know that I don't have to lead you because you're already committed to this cause. I would be preaching to the choir, but it is when we're not in the comfort of our own congregation, so to speak, that we need to rise to the occasion. And to quote someone I admire very much, the mark of leadership is not to stand up when everybody else is standing, but to actually stand up when no one else is standing. So how do you do that? Well, another quote comes to mind. Speak out. You've got to speak out against the madness. You've got to speak your mind if you dare. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to tell the truth. Don't be afraid to weep. Don't be afraid to be angry, and don't be afraid to question, and don't be afraid of the answers, no matter how disturbing they may be. And don't trust the press because they have their own agenda. Do your own fact-checking. Correct the lies and praise those who tell the truth. Write letters, wear a button, put a bumper sticker on your ride, engage people on the subject, get them thinking, and don't be off by those who criticize dissent. For dissent protects democracy, and those who protect democracy are patriots of the highest order.
We can't forget the people who've died in Afghanistan, and we can't forget the innocent civilians who have died in Iraq. 90% of all casualties in a war are civilians.
But your flag decal won't get you into heaven anymore. It's already overcrowded from your dirty little war. And Jesus don't like killing, no matter what the reason for. And your flag decal won't get you into heaven anymore.
You were a part of something, and I just want to thank you all. You matter. It matters. Peace be with you.